I'm Helen Bradley. Welcome to this video tutorial on fixing animal eyes in Lightroom. The adjustment brush in Lightroom gives us the ability to do spot fixes on our images, and sometimes it's just easier to do it in Lightroom than it is to take an image to Photoshop. I like this particular composition a lot, but I think that the bird's eyes are lost in the composition and I'd like to see them a bit lighter. I'm going to use the adjustment brush to do this. This is the adjustment brush up here, so I'm going to click it to select it. But it would be easier to work on if I was a bit closer to the birds, so I'm just going to zoom in using the Z key, and then I can hold the space bar just to position the image in position so that I can work with it better. When I have the adjustment brush selected, the first thing I'm going to do is to click to fix its point. This will make a marker on the image that I can use to select the adjustment brush later on. This is the marker that you get. The idea now is to paint over the image to indicate the area that you want to fix. Of course, we're not seeing much happening here, and that is because I can't see what I'm painting. If you press the O key, that's the letter O, not the 0, then you can see this overlay, and that will help you see what you're painting. Having seen that I've got pretty much the entire eye selected, I'm going to press O again to hide this. And let's go and have a look at the adjustment brush settings. In Lightroom 2, there are two ways that you can see the adjustment brush. One is to see these buttons and the amount slider. The second one is to actually use sliders. And we're going to use both, but we're going to start with the sliders. And what I want to do is to kick up this area of the bird. So I'm going to add some exposure. I think I want to see a bit more contrast. I certainly want to see some more saturation. I'll throw some clarity at it, but probably not brightness. To see the effect on the entire image, I'm going to zoom out because it's a bit hard for me to see this in context. So this is the fix I've got so far, and I would call that probably just a little bit too much of a fix. So let's click this indicator here so that we can go to our amount slider, because the amount slider allows me to adjust that entire effect. Now, whenever you're using an amount slider like this, it's best not to walk it from, say, 100 downwards. It's best to take it from 1 up. The reason is it's easier to see the effect on the image when you start applying it rather than removing it. So let's just walk this up until we have an eye that we're pleased with. I'm thinking that's a pretty good setting. Let's check before and after. This is before, this is after. The effect is visible, but it's not over the top. So having fixed one eye, let's go and have a look at this eye, and we're going to do exactly the same thing. I'm going to zoom into the image, use the space bar to move the second eye into a position where I can see it clearly. I'm going to make sure that I have new selected and click here to create a new point of fixing. And again, I'm going to paint over this area. I'll press the O key so that I can see what I'm looking at, and then press the O key again to turn that off. Now, the brush that I'm using is this brush A, and it has a size and a feather, and you can adjust the brush settings by adjusting the size and feather here. You can also set auto mask on, and what will happen is that Lightroom will try and pick edges in the image. In this case I didn't use it because I really wanted to feather this effect out around the eye, but in some instances auto mask will do a lot of the work for you of picking out the edges. Now that we have this eye selected, again, let's just see what we have selected, turn it off, let's go back into our sliders and let's fix it. I want some contrast and saturation, and I want a bit of clarity. And having fixed it, let's zoom back out again so that we can see the fix in context, and as we can see, it's too much of a fix. Let's click here to go back to our effect buttons. It's not really the buttons we want, it's this amount slider. If you're using Lightroom 3, the amount slider is now in with the other sliders, so it's a little bit easier to find and use. In Lightroom 2, this is where you find it. Let's wind it back down to 1 so we're effectively removing the effect entirely, and now let's start walking it back up until we get the amount of effect that we want. I'm thinking that that's probably sufficient. Now that I'm done with the adjustment brush, I'm just going to click close. And let's have a look at our image before and after. And what we've done is applied a simple fix to this image using the adjustment brush in Lightroom, and it's saved us a trip to Photoshop. I'm Helen Bradley. Thank you for joining me for this video tutorial. If you're looking for more of my work, you can find my website at projectwoman.com. I blog on post-production at digitalphotographyschool.com. I produce Photoshop and Lightroom video training for designers at mediabistro.com, and some of my tutorials are featured on Adobe's own support site for Photoshop Lightroom.